Let's talk about a really profound internal journey, a kind of psychological alchemy. It's this idea of taking the heaviest, ugliest parts of yourself and somehow, almost magically, transforming them into something golden. It's not about changing the world, but about a radical transformation that happens entirely inside you.
And this quote, it just nails the whole promise of this journey. Taking that dead weight of nihilism, that feeling that nothing matters, and turning it into the dancing gold of a life that you, yourself, are driving forward. That's what this entire explainer is all about.
So, at the heart of all this, you've got this inner battle, a dialogue between two powerful forces within us. On one side, you have the anti-hero. This is the spirit of the holy no, the rebel who tears everything down. And on the other, you've got the overman, the spirit of the sacred yes, the creator who builds something new from the wreckage. Let's really get into their story.
Okay, so where does a journey like this even start? Well, it begins right here, in the alchemist's forge. And, it looks a lot like a vast, empty desert. This is where we find our raw material, that heavy lead, weighed down by the crushing burden of conformity.
Before there's any rebellion, before any of that, we start as the camel. Think about it. The camel is the stage where you're just carrying the weight of tradition, of every thou shalt you've ever been told. You follow these pre-approved paths because, honestly, they offer a kind of self-soothing shield. It feels safe, but there's no real ownership. You're just part of the herd.
But you know what? Eventually, that weight just gets to be too much. And from that intense pressure, a totally new voice emerges. It's this powerful, defiant roar, the roar of the anti-hero, the lion, who just refuses to carry that load for one more second.
You can almost hear it, can't you? The anti-hero just screams, "I am not your beast of burden. I reject your thou shalt, and I'm seizing my own I will." This is that huge moment of rebellion, of smashing old values to finally feel free. It's a really powerful and absolutely necessary act of liberation.
But here's the catch. There's a kind of poison mixed in with this newfound freedom. The lion's roar, it's often fueled by something called ressentiment, which is this really specific, curdled bitterness. He builds an invisible fortress made of blame, and his whole identity is defined by what he's against. This victim mentality, it feels like a shield, but it's really just a way to dodge the terrifying weight of real responsibility. And this is the anti-hero's trap. Winning feels hollow. Why? Because his entire identity is still tied to the very dragon he just killed. He is free from something, sure, but he's not free for anything. He's literally shackled to the debris he created, with no creative spark, no purpose to move him forward.
And right here, standing in this wasteland of his own making, a new, much calmer voice finally speaks up. This is the voice of the overman, the creator who looks at the mess and sees a completely different path forward.
See, the overman gets that this journey isn't just one single act. It's a series of transformations. You start as the camel, carrying the old world. Then you have to become the lion, the destroyer who clears the way. But the final and most important transformation? It's becoming the child, the one who can actually create something new from a totally clean slate.
The overman's message to the lion is crystal clear. Look, your holy no was crucial. I get it, but that's not the end of the road. True freedom isn't just about breaking chains, it's about inventing your own personal truth. It's about becoming a wheel that rolls from its own center, not just reacting to everything else. That is the sacred yes. So, the big question is, how do you make that jump? How do you go from being the lion to the child? Well, this is the real secret, the core of the alchemy itself. It's the internal act of transforming blame into pure ownership.
The whole thing starts with this massive moment of clarity. It's when you realize that your fortress of blame, the thing you thought was protecting you, is actually a self-imposed prison. The very walls the lion built to feel free are the same walls now keeping him trapped.
And that alchemical process, it requires some seriously courageous moves. You have to shatter that shield of victimhood. You have to throw away the crutch of blame. And that opens you up to this kind of radical honesty about your own role, your own power. Only then can you take full ownership of your own story and turn what felt like a bitter end into a pregnant beginning.
Which brings us to the final state. Once the alchemy is complete, the heavy, toxic lead of the anti-hero's resentment is finally, truly transformed into the dancing gold of the overman. And you can see the difference laid out so clearly right here. The anti-hero is built on a foundation of blame and resentment. The Overman on ownership and creation. The anti-hero struggle is just the poison of suffering, but the Overman turns that into a purposeful struggle. And the outcome? It's the difference between being shackled to your past and living a self-propelled life.
So this kind of heroism, it has nothing to do with conquering the world outside of you. The ultimate victory, the thing that leads to genuine redemption, is the conquest of their own disgust. It's an internal triumph over bitterness, blame, and the feeling that nothing matters.
And that just leaves us with this final, really provocative question. The journey needs both. The rebel, the anti-hero, has to be the one to destroy the prison of conformity. But real, lasting freedom, that belongs to the creator, the Overman, who builds a brand new world in the silence that comes after. So the question isn't if you should rebel, it's what are you going to build next?